Today marks the 1-month anniversary of that unspeakable tragedy in Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. I believe that we need to do 3 things. 1, we've got to improve access to treatment for young people struggling with mental illness. 2, we've got to improve school safety. And 3, we've got to improve our gun laws. I will be saying more this week in my State of the State address about the first 2 items, mental health and school safety. In the wake of recent events, it's clear that we need to do more. And today I'm pleased to join with Lieutenant Governor Denn and Attorney General Biden to announce our unified gun safety agenda. No one wants guns in the hands of people with ill intent. We must not arm those who would harm. Instead, we must enact stronger laws to protect our communities. And we'll talk about 5 different proposals this morning. The first is background checks for private sales. The legislation we propose, which will be sponsored by Representative Longhurst, will require background checks for the private sale of firearms, just as they are required when a person buys a gun from a licensed dealer. A system that ignores 4 out of every 10 gun sales is a system that is broken, and we need to fix it. Number 2 has to do with the mandatory reporting of lost or stolen firearms. Under current law, if a person owns a firearm and it gets lost or stolen, they're not required to report that loss to the police. This bill is simple. It would require that an owner report his or her lost or stolen firearm within 48 hours of discovering that it's missing.
The governor discussed the first 2 bills. The third bill that we're going to be pursuing would regulate large capacity magazines. The legislation that we're going to propose, which will be sponsored by Representative Mitchell and Senator Peterson and a number of their colleagues, would prevent the manufacture, sale, offer for sale, purchase, receipt, transfer, or delivery of any large capacity magazine in Delaware. It would also ban the possession of large capacity magazines in public places. We will propose to define large capacity magazine based upon the experience of other states that have successfully regulated them to mean a magazine with the capacity to accept more than 10 rounds for a handgun or 5 rounds for a rifle or shotgun. We think that this is a thoughtful and practical way to deal with this issue. And as I mentioned earlier, as we introduce this specific bill and the others, we're open to hearing from responsible gun owners about how we can refine them to make them more practical and effective. But doing nothing is not an option. And I am grateful to everyone who has joined us here today to make sure that our public policy makers hear loud and strong that Delawareans want a safe state with responsible regulation of weapons. Our focus will continue to be keeping guns away from dangerous people and protecting victims from the weapons most likely to be used illegally.
The 2 bills that I want to round out this 5-part proposal with are, number 1, an assault weapons ban, which is basically the mirror of what the Lieutenant Governor just talked about. The proposed bill here in Delaware would ban the sale, transfer, and possession of automatic and semi-automatic weapons that were designed for military use and equipped with military features. This will not be a Democrats versus Republicans issue. This will be people who believe that assault weapons simply don't have a place in our society other than for battle, and those who think that it infringes upon the constitutional right to bear arms. I stand here before you saying it does not infringe upon the Second Amendment, which I strongly believe in. And it's not inconsistent, I'll say and speak not like a lawyer, it is consistent with the Heller case, the recent Supreme Court case on the Second Amendment. The 5th part of this package is a bill that would ban the possession of firearms within 1,000 feet of a school. We need to do more to protect our students, especially when there's a discussion about arming more people in our schools. Again, this will be a fight as well. This bill will help to ensure the safety of our children in our schools. By outlawing the possession of a firearm in close proximity to a school, we will enable law enforcement who stand behind me and the governor and lieutenant governor to interdict those individuals who knowingly possess firearms and do so near buildings and schoolyards. It is important to note that this law is not intended to restrict the right of law-abiding citizens to own their guns and exercise their constitutional right, nor is it intended to restrict those law-abiding citizens who reside near schools, as the law specifically exempts them from its prohibitions while the guns are on their property. The law, likewise, is not intended to inhibit those individuals who possess concealed weapons permits from carrying firearms in conformity with these permits. This works, and I applaud the governor for pursuing the universal background check. I think it is a central element of this 5-part package that we know saves lives, and we know makes sense, and we know the American people and the citizens of this state support. I urge the General Assembly to get this done It'd be essential to protecting our citizens and, most importantly, our children. Thank you very much.